You're listening to the EduTech Guys, edutechguys.com.
Yeah, something new year. We'll try lunch with the EduTech guys.
Right.
See how it plays out, in a restaurant. We're taking a tip from our EdTech Bites
That's right.
buddy and see how this works out. I don't know what we're going to talk about, but, I was thinking, I've been watching since I've been retired, I have even more time on social media.
Just what you need.
That's exactly what I need. More doom scrolling.
Sorry.
But, I was thinking about the stuff that's actually going on now. It's become more, when we started this, I think we started it so we could give teachers the ability to learn more about tech. When we look back on it, because we were going to conferences and, that's how we started. And then interviewing people from companies and so they could get a little better understanding about it. And I think we had the right idea all along and morphed and changed and, tried to stay with trends, which is education in a nutshell. But I was thinking about Ray Hewitt's stuff, their new venture, Teachers Deserve It. They're all into making things better for teachers because in the long run, that's the basis of public education, what keeps it, flowing. So I was thinking really interesting, the workshops they do, they incorporate not just teachers, but aides and, paraprofessionals and administrators and even custodians and things like that. It's like a team effort at this point because, it is hurting heads, I guess. Looking forward to this new year. We haven't gone to a conference in a while. Last conference I was at was ISTE.
Yeah. And you had to do that one by yourself. I had just started my new job.
Yeah. And then ACOT, which was all tech coordinators.
Yeah.
But FETC's coming up. We're not going to be able to make it, but we're going to look at, highlighting some stuff from there. I think that's going to be different, but interesting. More time on a certain topic and subject.
Yeah.
And the companies that we always work with, they're becoming more teacher-centric and parent-centric and communication.
Which I think that, to me, that seems to be one of the biggest focuses, especially the last year or so. But, and I know there've been companies out there that have been focusing on, communication the whole time anyhow, but it feels like that has really come into focus, is setting up those lines, clearing those lines, making those lines easier of communication between district and parents, teachers and parents, students and teachers, all of the stakeholders involved. That seems to be where the focus is doing better communication.
I think that's always been it. I think we weren't seeing the trees because of the forest kind of thing, in education, not you and me. We've been on target the whole time.
That's right. The whole time. We knew it.
We knew all that.
We predicted this 10 years ago. No.
But, I think that's, I can't wait to talk to these people that are, we'll get on before and after FETC, and then TCA is right around the corner. So get a little more in depth at that point. So not sure what we'll do there yet. I'll definitely try to go and do that one and see our people and make the rounds and get a little more quick conversations with people with more specific questions, like if I'm on the floor.
Yeah.
I think that would be smarter. Just to hit real quick, 2-minute conversation on, this is what we suggest doing. What do you think about this? Here's a question, here's a question, here's a question.
Mm-hmm.
How do you look at that? I think that with what's happening in the country politically and socially, I think that we say this all the time, but I think we will see a massive trend change in public education, especially in Arkansas and school and states like that who are now, pretty much every state's gone to, student choice.
Right.
Where are you going to school? I want my kid to go to the best schools.
Well, and I just saw a thing the other day where I'm assuming it's the University of Arkansas, but it might not be. It might be one of the other universities in the state. But they're doing a huge study on, so where's this student choice money going? At the end of the day, is it still going primarily to public education? What chunk of that is now going to private schools? What chunk of it's going to homeschool? So it's going to be interesting to see where's the money flowing, how it's being used, what's the kind of effectiveness and outcome of, the governor's initiative to push school choice the way she sees school choice. I don't know. I think what's going to be really interesting for education is what's going to happen a few years down the road. I'm just going to say it. I'm pretty sure there's not going to be a Republican president next time. There might not even be a Republican governor in Arkansas next go around.
That's true.
So it's going to be interesting to see what changing parties does to education in general.
There's a big movement now, and there's a lot of talk about extracurricular, more specifically sports. And, it's really funny when I look back, we'll just take the last 10 years since you and I have been heavily on the conference scene. That's one thing that we never see. There's never anything at the major conferences about extracurriculars and sports. I mean, there's not workshops, talking about the curriculum of sports or the curriculum of extracurricular.
That could be the work the conferences we're going to, though. I mean, we go to tech conferences primarily. So
national education, NEA doesn't even talk.
Yeah, see, we don't really generally do that, but
But there's the thing, Ray and her team are talking about, teachers deserve it, and they're talking about the classroom.
Yeah.
And I think, and this is not me being a band director, nay-naying sports. I think sports are great and everything. But when most schools, and I'm just pulling this out of my pocket in the air, are spending the majority of their money and their land and their facilities and their services on extracurricular. And then the only time they seem to be concerned about curriculum is making sure that the students meet the basic necessities of education so they can perform in band or football,
so they can participate
or any extra choir or gymnastics or whatever.
Yeah.
I think as we've seen so much stuff go private, I think, in my opinion, this is Jeff's not the EduTechGuys' opinion, that's where it needs to get to. Maybe those 8 hours a day need to be heavily curriculum and education and still have PE and those things involved in it, but the bulk of everything else should happen outside of the learning environment day. I know and I don't know what that looks like, but, when I look at the school that I was at, there were students that spent of that 8 hours, 4 hours or more a day in extracurricular things.
Oh, yeah.
And then they reading at a 5th grade level when they graduated and they couldn't do basic math or balance checkbook or, read or write cursive. So I don't know, and I think we're going to get into that kind of stuff. Because when you look at most private schools that are, I'm not going to say the word stealing, tempting, attracting, that's what I'm looking for. More students, they don't have extracurriculars like it is a day of, learning and, STEAM, that kind of thing. I don't know. It's just looking at the trends and what's happening, where you're going to get a job. But, in this country and in the world, if we continue to, take that 5%, 10%, it's not even 10%, 5% of the world's population who make big money in professional athletics, that's the other 95% don't have a job.
Yeah.
And, and that's because they spent most of their time in school, that other 95% of their time in school doing extracurriculars.
Yeah.
And I can, it's not just that, I can say that about band and music too.
I just, I'm gonna play the old fuddy-duddy card.
Sure.
But
no, that's not you.
I know. Shocker.
So off.
But it's got to be way more than that. And the reason why I say that is because when we were in school, there were plenty of students who spent their time exactly the way we're talking about. A bunch of their time was spent in band or athletics or whatever the extracurricular activities were, theater or I don't know, whatever. It doesn't matter. And yet, I would argue most of us Gen Xers turned out, pretty okay.
Pretty good.
In fact,
terrible at sports, but
yeah, I'm not good at sports at all. I hated those extracurricular activities. By the same token, though, we had, and that was the other thing too. Think about that. We had, and I don't know how it was where you grew up, but even it didn't matter what kind of really where you were academically. in terms of the program, we had to take home ec, which was sewing and cooking and whatever else they
Which
made us
I use
do.
a lot, honestly.
Which, and then we had to take a shop class. It either had to be wood shop, metal shop, or auto shop. And you were required. It didn't matter if you were the brainiest of brainiacs or you were the football quarterback superstar. You had to take these other courses. And then one of the other things that I thought about the other day in terms of academics, and I'm kind of sidetracking where we were going, and maybe it's just because where we are, and maybe it's just what I see currently, but I don't know. When I was in school, we had, several foreign languages that we could pick from, and you had to take one. And we had, advanced courses pretty much in every subject area. There was, super advanced math classes. There were advanced history classes, advanced science classes. And I don't feel like I don't feel like I really see that anymore.
No,
it's we're lucky to get the freaking basics by the time. I'm kind of like, what the heck happened?
I think we're just trying to meet the minimum at this point.
Why is that acceptable now?
I don't know. And what makes me always question that is that you're right. I mean, ed classes, regular classes, blah, 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 blah. They all had a baseline.
Right.
They had a baseline. So
Yes.
if I knew that I wanted to do, soccer and band, then I would take regular classes because that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to get a good education. But I think what's happened is that as society has changed and the landscape has changed, most schools are just trying to keep their heads above water because I would say used to, if we had the tests we had now 20 or 30 years ago, I would say 30 to 40% of the kids would knock the top off of it.
Yeah.
And now now we're lucky that 10% knock the top off of it. And we seem to be happy with that.
Right.
But we're constantly playing catch up. I was going to say, we'll wrap this up because, it's us, pontificating again.
It is what we do.
I think that what's moving forward, and I noticed this about education, we just had a new year and everybody goes, January 1st, I'm doing all this new stuff. Well, that's how we do things in education. It's August 1st. We're doing all this.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we continually drop the consistency and we can't seem to go, we're going to do this. I mean, a child's lifespan in public education was 12, from first grade to 12th grade.
Right.
Okay, then what's a program's consistency to find out what's happened? I mean, wouldn't you need to go K through 5, for 6 years, just so you can say kindergartners did this in 6 years.
Yeah.
And that's just one group of students.
Right.
And I think that that's something that has to be looked at. And I believe that that's what a lot of arts are trying to push. And I know I'm talking about like Ray Hewitt and stuff, but she's just been on my mind because I see a lot of her. She's very, they're very on top of it. And they're like, we have to bulk these teachers up so they don't get burned out so that they can be consistent with now the, extra stuff that we put on teachers in the last 2 decades, in the last decade for sure. And then since the pandemic, the last 5 years, we've put another 60% on top of what teachers were already doing. And, and now it's not that you can look at a class and go, okay, this is how I have to break this up. Now it's like, no, everyone has to meet this new baseline, which is really high.
Yeah.
I've got to make this baseline, and that's really hard. That's like opening up a dozen eggs and trying to get the exact same size egg out of every cart.
Right.
Impossible.
Well, and what's crazy to me is I feel like that we have raised the bar at the lower level. You know what I mean? It's like, I feel like, and I don't know if this is, I don't know how accurate this is, but it seems to me like, again, back when we were in school, relatively speaking, we had some low bars to hit. And I mean this sort of tongue in cheek, but also not. I mean, I don't know about you, but I learned to tie my shoes in kindergarten. We learned our numbers, basic numbers and whatever else, really kind of first grade. And then it was like this slow building snowball. So that by the time we got to high school, we were ready for the advanced stuff because we had been taking those steps. Now I feel like kids almost have to know the advanced math when they come into kindergarten. By the time they get to 6th grade, they don't have to do anything anymore. I mean, it's almost like we flipped it around.
Right.
And I don't believe is helping at all primarily because little kids need to be little kids.
Oh,
They got to play and they got to learn. They got to experiment. And they got to, and we keep raising this weird arbitrary bar at the beginning, but then the bar doesn't really raise after that. It's like it gets to a certain point and, well, that's the bar. And as long as you can reach that bar, then you're good to go. So the kids that want to go above and beyond, and the kids who, no matter what, are going to go above and beyond, yeah, they've got it. They're going to have it. But then you have the other kids who, they hit that bar and that's pretty much where they're going to be. Well, now that bar peters out at, 8th or 9th grade, where before that bar petered out at 11th or 12th grade.
Right. What's funny about that, and you said that about play and everything, the way technology is here, I have a granddaughter now, and you turn on Tangled on the phone, and she's looking at the phone watching Tangled. And that's kids. And the interaction between the kids on the playground doesn't exist anymore. And I believe that was the opportunity we were lucky to have.
Yeah.
Because that carried on from the playground after school to the neighborhood. And I don't believe kids are being offered the opportunity to find their personality, to find out who they are. Yeah. And what they want to do. I think they're heavily influenced, especially junior high and teenagers in high school, social media and, get rich quick and TikTok videos. And I need to be doing this. This is who I'm supposed to be, without actually finding out who they're supposed to be by interacting with other people, because we had our friend groups and we can go back and say, oh, and this was the clown and this was the smart one and this was the jokester and this was the one that, with the book nerd and this was the one that was talented and this was, everybody had their own personality that was built from our friend group. And I think that's possibly some of it. But hey, I think that's where our podcast is moving for this next year, asking those specific questions. And I think we can both agree we'll get to that, finding those right questions to ask from the service providers, the educators, and the companies. Like, how are you looking at this? When do you guys meet and talk about these kind of things? Over lunch, pizza, whatever it is, how are you making that happen?
Yeah, it won't be just Jeff and Dave pontificating. We're going to bring in folks who are
I think that's
on the field and, in the trenches.
Our New Year's resolution, here we go, is, to make that different. Yeah. It's easier for us now with our new current schedules to do it at lunch, and somehow it'd be fun too. Maybe people sitting around us will learn a little something or go, what are those two old guys?
Shut up, I'm eating over here.
So, hey, listen, don't forget to visit our website, EduTechGuys.com. Check us out on social media. Just go to Google, type in EduTechGuys. You'll find us out there. But hey, it's been fun. I'm Jeff.
I'm David.
Hey, we'll catch you next time. Cool.
Yeah.
You've been listening to the EduTech Guys, edutechguys.com.